Hey guys, Thomas Jr. here, aka Mustached, here to review the movie Candyman 2021. And if you end up enjoying this review, then please feel free to uh, look at the description below. That will lead you over to my Patreon page. And you can feel free to join that. Any donations will be greatly appreciated. Also consider subscribing. Once again, still trying to get to that 200 subscriber mark milestone. I don't have a official video for that anymore, as I already posted it early. But I'm still trying to get there as a milestone in general. Anywho, with shilling out of the way, and I'll remind you at the end of the review of said shilling, let's get into the movie. So, Candyman 2021 obviously is a remake, or soft remake slash continuation of the movie Candyman, which I didn't check its initial release, the first iteration of Candyman. Divisive to say that this is among the echelons of horror, like Freddy, Jason, and the like. Of course, we have had remakes of Freddy, of Jason, so it's no surprise to me that Candyman would be among the roster of characters to get a remake. Of course, Chucky also being one of the characters. So again, not too surprising to see a remake of, those iconic horror characters. So, I should also say that there were smaller parts of the remakes I have liked within them, but as wholes, being as objective as possible, I don't think the remakes hold up as well in most regards. Again, there are certain elements that add a little bit of something, but as an overall experience, isn't as great. And I would throw this version of Candyman right into that pile of this is obviously not as good as its original. No surprise here. So, before I can even get into it, I will say that this iteration, or this remake, does directly refer to and mention, racism and politics and stuff about what white people did. And, as I move through the movie, I'm just going to say what happens in the movie, and I'm just stating that now. And I don't remember the first original Candyman being about that. So it's pretty bizarre to, have a movie like this be remade and then have the story be retold in such a way that it would paint such a specific picture, and then to have the very own narrative become skewed in that way from what this movie is trying to portray, especially in the beginning, and where it sort of tends to go towards the end. Again, really confusing. And I think this is a perfect movie to point to be like, this is why a lot of critics, a lot of people in general audiences will probably typically say, we don't want politics in our movies. I think people are gonna, people who watch this are probably going to point to this movie as a perfect example of that. So, with that being kept in mind, let's get into the actual events that happen in the movie. So we cut back to the years old in 1977, where we see a young kid heading up to do his laundry, because I guess the house he lives in does not have a laundry area of its own, so he has to proceed to go there. And as he's talking and walking, we see some cops. They're looking at him. They don't really seem to be doing anything except sort of just chilling there, at least at the time. And then we proceed to see Candyman come out with his hook. We hear the kid scream, the police head up, and then it sort of insinuates that they want to go to attack Candyman. We cut to 2019, which isn't that long ago, keep in mind. That's like 2 years ago? Where we cut to 4 roommates, Anthony being the main character, quote unquote. We also have Troy, his wife, Rihanna, and Troy's boyfriend, whoever his character's name is. Honestly, I wish I could tell you, but I don't think they say his name once in the entire movie, so... So yeah. And as the 4 are talking, as I mentioned, the 4 of them are talking about how white people specifically have gentrified their specific location, and I don't know where this movie takes place. So I know I know what gentrification is, and I know that is a thing that happens throughout history. Obviously, it would be kind of indicative to at least know where this is taking place, to know to the extent of what the gentrification would probably be like. I mean, as just a personal example, I live I'll just say the area I live in, the state, Rhode Island. We, at least from where I live, the area hasn't really changed in any significant way. The people who live around here has shifted from time to time, sure, but the area itself certainly hasn't changed in any significant way. I don't say I can't relate to that sort of situation. We've always sort of lived in a low end, I guess I would say, sort of quote-unquote suburban area. But anyway, so we learn about this woman named Helen Millie, I believe her name was, and we are shown the backstory of the original Candyman through this marionette system that they cut to a few times in the movie. And this first initial one where they go over how crazy she became. And as I mentioned, 2 of the 4 characters, what I can name about their personalities is Troy is the gay guy, the token gay guy, and Anthony is an artist. If you were to ask me anything about beyond that, I would be like, well, I don't know, because the movie doesn't tell me anything else beyond that. So our characters are essentially paper thin, which is always a complete bummer. And how many reviews have I stated explicitly in the horror genre, where I'm always like, well, when you have paper thin characters, you tend to root for the killer more. And that's not a good thing if that is the process of which you are trying to create a horror movie. And yet, so many more horror movies, especially in the more modern era, seems to follow that template of not creating well-written characters or poorly written characters. And we tend to now more so root for the villains rather than the heroes. It's so utterly backwards. And it's so it's just so boring and it's just so old. It's just so irritating. With the amount of movies I have seen and reviewed, and have to keep mentioning this uh, over and over. This is probably like what the fifth time I've had to mention this, so quite a bit. Anyway, uh, as we continue to follow Anthony, who has a understanding of an interest in art, as I mentioned, eventually makes his way over to the abandoned area. I guess it's abandoned, question mark. Well, with the exception of one man who seems to be there. Excuse me. And his name was William, who talks about the Candyman lore, and who Candyman was, the Sherman guy, and how the officers went in and shot him, how they rushed in, and so on and so forth. So, after learning about this, all of this story, Anthony wants to now summon Candyman. So we got that going on. Meanwhile, a critic of some lady critic claims, as he's talking, or she's talking with Anthony, about his work, and he mentions how, the stuff I mentioned before about how the gentrification process took over, and she, for whatever reason, retorts that artists are the ones that are the real poachers of society, which is a baffling statement. So yeah, I don't know what that was supposed to imply. Anyway, after that little interview, a couple that we see left behind during this art museum show, one of his co-workers, question mark, and his, I guess, girlfriend, are left behind in the museum when it's closed, question mark, even though they're still allowed in there for whatever reason. So they get the idea, since they have the mirror there, to call out to Candyman. She does the process by saying the name in the mirror, and she proceeds to die. And as he proceeds to get dragged in by an invisible force, and I kid you not, he takes line for line words from Jurassic Park. I wish I wrote the exact line down, but it is word for word things that were said in Jurassic Park. Yeah, that's awkward as fuck. So, we cut back to Anthony, and, the process is on the news now, and he becomes readily upset that they don't refer to the name of, I guess, either himself or Candyman. I'm not sure what he's more angry with. The scene is a bit unclear. Again, writing, you gotta lurk a little bit harder there, I guess. And the wife, Rihanna, checks in on him, and she's a little bit more apprehensive. We cut to William jumping off of a roof for some reason, and his son is there. This scene, I don't know why it's in the movie. It doesn't add anything. He turns up later in the movie, so I'm not sure exactly why the scene is here. So, yeah, okay. Anyway, So he wakes up. Anthony does. Excuse me. And cut back to Anthony, who is now looking more deeper into this Helen Millie fiasco. And as such, as he's working his way around, he eventually gets stuck in an elevator where he sees a glimpse of the Candyman, who drops a piece of candy. He gets out of the elevator, and some people just sort of get in, and they're not even at all fazed by him getting out of the elevator, looking all, worried and panicked. None of them, are like, huh, that's a bit weird, or like, say, like, hey, anything up, man? No common courtesy. It's a little bit weird, if I've seen someone who got out of an elevator, if I were about to get in an elevator and that person came out of the elevator all freaked out, even if I didn't know that person, I'd be like, hey, you alright, person? Common courtesy. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too nice. But fuck it. You can't even have your people walking back and forth have the slightest modicum of character either, I guess. Anyway, so the critic interviews him again, and we see now that he has been injured a little bit more. And we see that his wife is sort of, unknowing to the going-ons of Anthony. So he goes to get some more intel from William, who's fine, by the way, as I mentioned before, about more Candyman intel. And when he returns, his wife is so angered. She says Candyman, I believe, either twice or 3 times, which the total is supposed to be 5 before the bad stuff starts happening, but before she can proceed to do so, he breaks the mirrors, or the mirror she is speaking into. So she's totally fine. And she runs off to go hang with Troy because she's freaked out. And they have a little moment together where they're talking about like how Anthony's like fallen into some weird stuff. And then we randomly cut to a scene completely unrelated where these 5 women, young women, girls, I assume they're even high school, question mark. Where the 5 of them are aware of Candyman, so they're wanting to say the name 5 times. So they proceed to do so with one other individual walking in, who walks into the stall, and they proceed to all get killed one by one, with the one individual just sort of eventually seeing all the action or the death and, not able to really do much else, and it's made pretty unclear as to whether she survived or dies. But we gotta cut back to what's going on with the story, so we do so. As Anthony is now at the hospital due to his ever-growing injury, and the wife is talking with some new artist partnership stuff. And as Anthony is upset and wants to do some more stuff, he cuts to talking with his mom about the whole situation. And apparently, in the backstory, and as the mom explores, they mention in the backstory that there was a baby involved in how the baby was saved and all of this stuff. So it turns out that he is indeed the baby all grown up. So he goes back to the abandoned area, and thus with the wife, Rihanna, getting more concerned, goes to the same or similar area in this laundry area, and she is pulled away when she gets to the back area. We see some weird stuff where we see a kid see his sister die due to more Candyman shenanigans, which I don't know what is related to the story / plot or just more Candyman stuff inserted into the story. So now Anthony is full on crazy. And if, that transition seems a bit out of nowhere, or seems very loosely tied in, it is because, well, that just sort of happens. I would say gradually, question mark. Or, it's hard to explain, is as far as I'm willing to say. But anyways, the wife manages to escape by a dramatic margin of seeing Candyman, the original Candyman, and getting out after being attacked a little bit. And as she is compromised in such a way, the police move in and they attack. They fire upon the situation. And then she is placed under arrest for some reason. I don't know what the point of this is, but okay. So the cop that is asking her question is asking her either if, she was in on the situation or not. And she proceeds to answer simply by saying Candyman 4 times in the mirror of the cop car. And this is enough to have him pop back up, Anthony as the new Candyman now, and attack the cops and free her and make their merry way to do whatever, as the movie just sort of comes to an end with after the fact of the attack. And that was Candyman 2021. It's not great. Even if I knew nothing about the original, even putting that aside, just looking at this movie, independently of its remake, or it being a remake, I should say, it's still not good. The characters aren't that well written. The horror elements seem to be more jumbled in rather than it being a part of the story / plot of it. And they all are geared toward the end of the movie, or the middle to the end of the movie. And while I would normally say that could have been really good, under these circumstances, with the characters already being poorly established, the horror in itself just seems, again, thrown in for the sake of, well, you also have to do this, too. And that, to me, isn't good. It's not good. Horror can be better than this, and I keep hating to having to say that, but it can be better than this. And all I'm asking for the people who watch this review, if you watch all the review, all the way through this review, if you have any interest in making horror, yourself in movie form or otherwise, video game, etc., etc. Do your character work. Make sure your characters are well written, and I promise you, you will have a much better horror movie slash video game or whatever it is you're doing than this movie by a landslide. Because, and I have to keep restating this, when you are invested in your characters, even if you are someone who is hard to spook, is hard to scare, it is possible, and more possible, to still relate to a strongly character, and, you know, for me to say, or that individual to say, oh, I fear for that character. I want them to survive. I want the best situation for them. I hope they make it out. I'm scared for the character. That is what horror should be doing, and it's not. It is still not doing it, and it is a shame that we are still not getting this. It is a shame that writers are not understanding this. It is a shame that it took, and yes, it is also a shame that it took another iconic character and totally remade it in such a way where we're just going, well, there goes another one. Fuck. I mean, again, who's ruined next? What happens next? It just keeps happening. So I'm gonna give this movie a 3 out of 10. It's not good. And, yeah. Again, we can do so much better. And it's gonna take a while, I feel, for us to get back to that. But here's hoping, for anyone who watches this again all the way through. Anyways, if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. The second one will head you over to my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed, and also consider subscribing. Once again, really close to getting that 200 subscriber milestone. Really looking forward to it. I don't have an official video yet, but again, I love making me some milestones. And that one is the one I'm looking forward to really, really, really close, since I'm really close. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.